look at this fucking dumb fuck. Okay, hold on. A fact they tried to hide. Almost all of that went to the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, the sub-agency led by Antonio Fauci. Except it turns out he got no money from it directly in his fucking, like, he didn't make any of the money. They're making it seem like he was the one who was just like fucking raking it in. Is she implying he made 700 million off the vaccine? Yes, that's what she's implying. The reality of the matter is, yeah, they're funding the fucking vaccinations. It goes back into grants as far as I know. Like, yeah, that's just how the government works. You know what I mean? They give money that Donald Trump also gave to corporations. Operation Warp Speed, if you will. And then that money goes back to the government to make more gay vaccines. And by that, I don't mean vaccines to stop you from catching the gay. I mean vaccines that make you gay and autistic.
On COVID, I received, I think, $122 for a monoclonal antibody that I made 27 years ago.
Okay, so just in general, though, how much have you...
Yo, that's kickback, son. There you go. This guy, it wasn't $0. It was $112, baby. We got him. Fucking got him, dude. Fuck this guy. That's it. Throw the book at him.
Not related to COVID, just in general, how much have you received in royalties between 2021 and 2023?
I think none.
Okay, so somebody received the 710.
Somebody did, but not me.
You didn't receive any royalties? Okay.
I'm honestly surprised you like Fauci is a good guy. What? I think it's ridiculous. I understand that epidemiologists and people in healthcare, in public health, are in a really fucking unique predicament, especially when there's a novel disease that is literally melting the old. In that circumstance, you have to play a fucking tightrope. That tightrope is, how cautious can we be to ensure the maximum amount of fucking people? What can we communicate? Did they go far out in their caution? Absolutely, of course, but that's completely fucking, that is one of the few unique instances where the government does have your back for obvious reasons, because they don't want you to fucking die. Like, what do you mean? Their job is to literally communicate dense scientific literature to the public in a way that is like understandable and set precautions so that people don't fucking die, because unfortunately we're stupid as shit. It's the same exact principle behind seatbelt laws.
Well, anyway, moving on, I just want to say that, we know billions of dollars have been funding these animal experiments, both here domestically and in foreign lands. I'm very troubled by the cruel, horrific animal research that has been done on U.S. land and in foreign laboratories. Taxpayers are footing the bill for billions of dollars.
She's trying to hit the white woman angle too. She's like, yo, think about the puppies. What was it? They killed beagles or something? What the fuck was it?
These beagle puppies that have their throats slit. They're being injected with ticks. They are murdered after just a few months.
Bro, I think it's literally more just to engage in animal testing for life-saving medication for humans than it is to eat them for personal consumption. And I don't even have an issue with eating them. So I'm sorry. Animal testing when it comes to like makeup, ridiculous. Animal testing when it comes to like actual life-saving medication, are you fucking kidding me? Like, yeah, no shit, dude. I think we should do that, actually. You know who else we test medication on? Life-saving medication? Humans. Like, what are we doing? What the fuck? I don't know if you know this process, but it's for the betterment of society as a whole, so that dumb fucks like you who are too stupid and that natural selection would completely fucking remove you from this planet under every other goddamn circumstance is actually going to work against your better judgments. Then skip the animals. You are out of your fucking mind. The reason why we tested on animals first before we tested on humans is so that we're just not melting humans. The difference is consent. The animals can't consent to being melted. Yeah, I don't give a shit. They're fucking animals, dude. What are we talking about? Vegans, shut the fuck up, okay? Trust the process. You are being speciesist and history will not look back fondly at you. It's all right. everyone should be allowed to have one bad take. If history looks back at me and says I'm a monster, then so be it.
Congressman, with all due respect, I'm not trying to be confrontative. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but the experiments that the NIH funded go through strict regulatory processes of the treatment of animals, the humane treatment of animals.
Well, they're not very humane, and I will say, as the former director.
Bro, what are you talking about? You're a Republican in American Congress? Like, get the fuck out of here. What do you mean? They're not very humane. Like, what is your party literally fucking melts the poor in its advocacy and women that want to fucking get a medical process like an abortion. Shut the fuck up. It's so, what a ridiculous sham trial. But I guess vegans would agree with that because like human beings are consenting or something. I don't fucking know. They're doing COVID conspiracy theories this morning by somehow pinning the pandemic on Fauci, the one guy in Trump's order who was sane and rational throughout the ordeal. They don't want to have a reality-based conversation about who really botched things and who guided us out of the worst of it. You were the director of the NIH for more than 3 decades. It's not an accident that like the COVID vaccines were a scientific marvel, an international scientific community collaborative effort, and brought about in phenomenal time, and the mRNA vaccine research is also most likely going to yield incredibly positive results for severe life-altering, life-ending diseases. It is, of course, because of that reason that every dumb fuck is chirping against it because they're stupid. I don't know what else to say about it other than the fact that you are just afraid of things you don't understand, like a goddamn caveman, like an ape. I can't believe that I've had this argument over and over again for like years. And now we're back in the pocket of like 2021. It's mind-boggling. This is what's happening. It's crazy. We're desperately trying to kill ourselves, I think. That's what's going on. This is the irony that so many of these people would be too dumb to survive if modern medicine didn't exist. And now all of those people are becoming the majority. I'm not being a eugenicist, I promise. I'm joking, but also kind of not joking in the sense that like the very same people that are surviving due to modern medicine are turning into like this very loud majority of people that are like, actually modern medicine is bad. Fauci's group on GOP Representative Michael Cloud about if he still supports COVID public health measures. These were important when we were trying to stop the tsunami of deaths. Dude, this shit is crazy, man. It's crazy. What the fuck? I know it's like really fashionable to shit on Fauci ouchie and stuff like that now. I don't know, because the holdouts, the ones that like still care about this are the most manic people of all time. So they kind of dominate the conversation amongst themselves about how bad of a guy he is or whatever.
Be a yes or no as to whether you believe these measures were justified. Business closures.
Early on when 5,000 people were dying a day, yes.
But never out,
Church
Beacon.
closures.
You got this.
Same thing.
School closures.
Capture zone secured.
Again,
Stay-at-home orders.
these were important when we were trying to stop the tsunami of deaths that were occurring early on. How long you kept them going is debatable.
Mask mandates for adults, mask mandates for children, mask mandates for children under 5.
Going back to what I said before, all of that is in the context of, at the time, 4 to
Mask mandates for
5,000.
I love that like we have completely fucking dropped
Capture
preparedness
zone
for
contested.
a novel
Hostiles on the scope in
virus
zone B.
that removed 1.2 million people from the U.S. total population. What the fuck are we talking about?
Friendly
It is
going for
literally
zone
part
B.
of the reason why Donald Trump did not get reelected. A major part of the reason, because people were like, holy shit, we are getting fucking ruthlessly
Zone secured.
slaughtered by an invisible enemy. And half of the population at the time was like, I'm on the fucking war. I'm joining the coronavirus war on the side of COVID. All you needed to know at the time how silly these arguments were was that first, COVID was fake. And then we mustn't get vaccinated
I'm
against
detecting
this
hostiles
fake
on zone C.
COVID. But also simultaneously, we should be going around and that it was a bioweapon created by the Chinese that was developed to kill Americans. But also, it's not fake and it's real, and
capturing
that's why
zone
we
C.
need ivermectin. It doesn't even stand up to an ounce of scrutiny. Like the logic that they were trying to cultivate was like, faulty. It just a couple questions would like destroy the argument in and of
Hostiles on the
itself.
scope in zone
It's
B.
both fake and also
Zone
a Chinese
compromised.
bioweapon that was built in a lab that we paid for, okay, to kill American whites, the God-fearing patriots. But it also is, you shouldn't vaccinate against it, but you should also use another medication, ivermectin, even though it's fake. and gay. Like, it's inherently contradictory principles that you were deploying in this argument.
Zone
Didn't
B
some
is
Republicans
vulnerable.
say that Jewish and Asian people are inherently immune or something? No, it wasn't a Republican congressperson. It was RFK Jr. You're thinking of RFK Jr., who once famously said, COVID was a bioweapon developed by Ashkenazi Jews and the Chinese to kill white people. That was not a Republican congressperson. That was RFK Jr. He did say that. The arguments against the lockdown or the preventative measures before we fully grasped how this thing was like spreading and like what it was doing to people was definitely heavy-handed, but perfectly understandable. Even then, nobody in the red states listened to it anyway and suffered the consequences of it. And beyond that, when we get to the vaccine part of the conversation, that's when you really lose me, where I'm just like, bro, you are fucking insane. Like, this deleted 1 million Americans, man. What the fuck are we talking about? 1 million Americans just deleted, gone, dead.
Zone secured.
Fauci, you were quoted on CBS Face the Nation saying it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. Do you represent science, Mr.
Zone
Fauci?
compromised.
I am a scientist who uses the scientific method to gain information.
Yes,
the zone,
you said you
keep the
represent
zone.
science.
You know
This
the
big
mission.
of an intelligence gap between two individuals having a conversation. Again, another fucking achievement for modern medicine. And in the case of Marjorie Taylor Greene, maybe an L for modern medicine. You know what I mean? Like, maybe we shouldn't be saving everybody. Hearing Republicans talk about this sort of shit over and over again kind of makes me question, perhaps it's better to just let society collapse a little bit, you know? The natural yearn for the natural selection.
But this, as director of the NIH, you did sign off on these so-called scientific experiments. And as a dog lover, I want to tell you this is disgusting.
We're
and
on track for
evil,
mission
what
success.
you signed
Keep it up.
off on.
Target
and
down.
These experiments.
Bro, conservatives do this shit all the time. Whatever they choose to vilify, they look at like the route tasks that go into whatever they decide is like supposed to be vilified as like scary. And it is ridiculous. They
Don't
do
be
this
compromised.
for, you know, any kind of medicine, right? They do this for abortion. They're like, yeah, you go in and you scoop the baby, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you could explain open heart surgery in such a way that is absolutely terrifying to the average American. That doesn't change the reality that it is a incredible medical achievement and necessary for survival. It's so fucking stupid. Yeah, they do this with gender affirming care. They do this with abortions. They do this with everything that they decide is like scary and bad. When in fact, you could literally describe in horrifying detail the process in which you do an open heart surgery. They literally break your rib cage. After sawing your chest open, they pry back your rib cage after cracking it open in order to get to your fucking heart. How do you think surgery works? That's how surgery works. And we are basically one step removed from advocating against open heart surgery because of how fucking unscienced these dipshits are.
Paid for by the American taxpayer. And I want you to know Americans don't pay their taxes for animals to be tortured like this.
Yeah, Americans pay their taxes for Palestinians to be murdered. I want you to understand, sir.
I'm
I pay
detecting
my
our sonar
taxes
tech in
so
enemy
we can
hands.
kill Palestinian babies. That's why I'm paying my taxes. I don't know about you. Why couldn't we put Palestinian children in the Beagle murder contraption instead? Did we run out of Palestinian babies to kill? No.
The type of science that you are representing, Mr. Fauci, is abhorrent, and it needs to stop. Mr. Fauci, you also represent the type of science that where you confess that you made up the COVID rules, including 6 feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it. You
I
made it
didn't
up.
say I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr.
I didn't
Fauci?
say I made anything up.
I mean, it's Daily Mail, so yes. Yeah, of course it's fake news. It's fucking Daily Mail, dumbass.
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
But this is science.
What does dogs have to do with anything that we're talking about today?
These are scientific experiments. This is what you signed off on. But you also told the American people they had to distance by 6 feet. they had to wear masks, and making up guidelines like 6 feet distancing and masking of children. Do you think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor, you're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes.
Oh my God, I hate her so much. Dude, Americans have drank too much of the dumb bitch juice. We're out here sipping on that dumb bitch juice. We are all we're a nation of dumb bitches. The fucking demagoguery here is actually incredible. Republicans are just the dumbest, most cynical pieces of shit ever. She's like, yeah, you are no longer a doctor, sir. You're Mr. until my time is over. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude. I mean, dogs shouldn't be put in tests like that. Can we agree? No, dumbass. Shut the fuck up. Vegans can't stop themselves from chirping. I'm not gonna fucking sit. First of all, God damn it, it is so easy for even the dumbest cretin like Marjorie Taylor Greene to like capture the attention of people like this, okay? You have been duped. You are now saying, let's hand it to Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's cynically talking about these dogs. She doesn't give a fuck about any dogs. She doesn't even give a fuck about humans. What the fuck are we talking about? She's a Titan. She eats them, okay? That's number one. Number two, you are stupid as fuck for literally going, yeah, actually, we should literally just stop. You know what? I don't think this Anthony Fauci guy is a good guy. Like, why? Even if your position as animal testing for medical purposes is bad, this is not the time to chirp about it, which I don't even have an issue with regardless. I think ultimately, animal testing, no matter how cool it looks for
this
medicine,
off's a bit raucous for the echelon
infinitely
playbook,
more
but I'm sure you'll
valid,
manage.
okay, before human testing starts especially, is infinitely more valid than just eating them. And I don't even have a problem with eating them. And neither does this the fucking
Your mission
dipshit. So
is to
shut
secure
up.
the capture
Animal
zone.
testing isn't
Team
even a good
capturing
indicator of
zone
human
C.
compatibility of medicine. That's not even fucking true. I can't speak for beagles, but like rats has
Capture
a
zone secured.
relatively similar immune system structure, so that's why they do it. Why do you think they do it? Why do you think they do it? Why? Why do they do it? You think it's because they want to fucking torture and murder beagles? Is that why? Like what other purpose would the scientific community have? Because they just feel like it? Like, what's happening here?
Mr. Chairman,
of order.
just in terms of the rules of decorum, are we allowed to deny that a doctor is a doctor
Friendlies
just because we
capturing
don't
Zone
want
A.
him to be a doctor?
Yes,
Friendly's
because
going
in
for
my
Zone B.
time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked and he belongs in prison.
The gentlelady should recognize the doctor.
Capture Zone A is at risk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this what we have become? Is this what we have devolved into? No decorum.
You know what? We can do that hearing about the poor men that were injected with syphilis because I support you in that. That's horrific.
Wait, I support you as in we should be injecting more black men with syphilis just to
Capture
see
zone
what
secured.
it does. We used to be a
down,
nation
but
of
never out,
values.
Agent.
We
You
used
got
to
this.
be a country, a proper country, where we could conduct illegal, unethical experimentation on black Americans, like the Tuskegee Airmen. We should go back to that instead of the
Hostile
Beagles.
suppressed.
Of your
Revenge
science.
kill.
What is this?
A professional courtesy. Hostiles on the scope in Zone
Your
B.
science. Your repulsive, evil science.
God, we're so dumb.
An email. You said earlier you don't use email. Oh, you do. Right here. This is your own email where you said the typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out virus. I do not recommend that you wear a mask. This is your email. This is your own words. But yet children all over America were forced to wear masks. Healthy children forced to wear masks, muzzled in their schools. And then they were forced to learn from home because of your so-called
Muzzle.
science and your medical suggestions, while you and all your cronies get paid from Big Pharma. You know that what this committee should be doing? We should be recommending you to be prosecuted. We should be writing a criminal referral because you should be prosecuted for crimes against humanity. You belong in prison, Dr.
Friendly's going
Fauci.
for Zone B.
Mr. Chairman, I have
Capture Zone contested.
Preach, sis. Speak on it, Queen. I'm on her side again.
Now, this is something that I've certainly not done in the past, so I'm gonna go big. You guys know me. If I go big. So, guys, I had the opportunity to sit down with Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris to talk about a number of important issues that we're facing as a country. I do feel that Vice President Biden and Senator Harris are the best choice to lead our country, and I am endorsing them to become president and the vice president of our United States.
Hey guys, I gotta tell you, well, it is so good seeing you guys. Senator Harris, it's a pleasure to finally see you and finally meet you. And I have never publicly endorsed a presidential candidate or a vice presidential candidate in my life, over my career. So I figured let's kick this conversation off this way by me officially publicly endorsing you both to become president and vice president of our great country.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Of course, the first congratulations goes out to our new president-elect, Joe Biden. Congratulations on the presidency and congratulations on being the most voted for presidential candidate in the history of our great country.
Loadout
The endorsement
updated.
that I made years ago with Biden was one I thought was the best decision for me at that time. And I thought back then, when we talked about, hey, I'm in this position where I have some influence, and it's my job then. I felt like that then. It's my job now to exercise my influence and share with this is who I'm going to endorse. Am I going to do that again this year? The answer is no.
So last year we had Tom Brady at the ball conference. This year we have this guy. Check this out. Hey, what's up, everybody? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson here, man. I am pumped. I got some big news to share with you guys. I cannot wait to join all of you guys down there at the Vault Conference in Palm Beach, September 4th through the 7th. I'm going to be sitting down with your host and my good buddy, Patrick Bet-David. We're going to chop it all up from leadership, entrepreneurial spirit, back to work for me because the rent is always due.
In today's easy cancel culture world, and cancel culture, woke culture, this culture, that culture, division, etc. That really bugged me.
What is it about bald middle-aged men who are very wealthy and are into fitness culture, and when they hit about 50, they suddenly start talking about wokeness and cancel culture? There must be like a term for this. Let's call it like Joe Roganification or something like that, because yeah, The Rock appears to be going on a somewhat similar trajectory to someone like Joe Rogan, who's his buddy anyway, in that someone who has supported openly Democratic politicians like Joe Biden is now complaining about wokeness. Now, for a long time, it's been speculated Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will one day run for president, and if he will run for president one day, he will run for the Republican nomination. Now, we're going to get into his politics today because I probably think he's conservative generally, but I guess you can't really boil him down to like a political party in America, because he definitely isn't someone who fits in the mold of a traditional Republican or even a traditional Trumpist Republican. In fact, for a guy who complains about wokeness,
Rogue Echelon agent
I mean,
activated
just look at some of the
sonar.
stuff he said over the past 4 years or whatever. I'm sure plenty of conservatives would call him woke for talking about things like Black Lives Matter and everything. So what I want to do today is just talk about this guy, because I don't think his politics are really that complicated. It just boils down to he's just so full of himself. I don't want to use the term narcissist, because obviously we don't know who he is. But let's just say The Rock thinks about The Rock, and his politics are The Rock. Like, that is his politics. Whatever is best for his brand and image, but also based on the stuff he's kind of said recently, and collaborating more with right-wing people and talking more like right-wing talking points. It kind of just feels to me he's just like going in that direction because that's where the audience is for his fucking slop films. And also a host of corporate products. And it's just insane to me how much stuff this guy is into. In terms of making yourself into a brand, he has to be one of the most successful people at this. Just becoming like this massive movie star. He's gone back to wrestling now as well. Has so many different products and everything. It's just like so insane how much stuff he's into. But yeah, today I just wanted to kind of talk about this trajectory. And it was inspired by seeing like a post where he is going to some sort of conference or like event days hosted by Patrick Bet-David, of course, a guy who hosts the Right Wing podcast. himself, and I was just thinking about how has The Rock gone from endorsing Joe Biden to talking about wokeness on Fox News, talking about how he really regrets that, and then collaborating with someone like Patrick Bet-David. So all of that coming up for you today. Please follow me on social media at The Tabernacle on Instagram, my travel and personal. Also check me out on Threads and Blue Sky. And if you want to support my work, trying to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible, check out the Patreon page. And that is also how you get access to the Discord server. So in terms of my own like personal views of The Rock, I mean, I'm not a fan because I'm not into wrestling. I don't think he's a great actor. I mean, he's fine as like an action star or whatever, but basically all of his movies are the same. Most of them look shit. So I'm not going to spend any time watching them. But yeah, you can't deny he's been a very successful actor. If we're looking at box office, we're looking at the popularity of the movies he's in. And also he's one of those few actors, or in the past he was, not so much anymore, who can literally just drive a movie to success based on the fact that he's in it. Like, think about all these like really terrible movies he's been in, but they're still financially successful purely because he's in them. So you can't deny this guy's success. And I went on his Instagram quick before this, and I'm just like astounded at all the stuff he's doing. So recently he launched skincare, and I'm thinking, what interest does this guy like have specifically in launching a skincare company? And then it talked about him going to WrestleMania again. He's in Moana 2. He has like an energy drink company as well. I've never seen this in the UK. And also he has a tequila company. And I'm pretty sure I'm probably just scratching the surface of all these things. They've all got huge followings on Instagram, you know, probably because he's affiliated with them. And of course he stars in movies still. You know, there's a movie called Red Notice that he was in. Apparently he was a nightmare to work with. And there's a new movie called Red Something, I don't even know what it is, with Chris Evans. Like, these look like the same movie. And then I didn't even know this. There is a TV show called Young Rock with 37 episodes about his life. I think because I'm in the UK, maybe I am ignorant to how massive this guy is, that he even like has all this stuff going for him. Or maybe I'm just ignorant of like social media marketing.
I'll take 3
but yeah,
objectives
it's
on your
just so
offset.
crazy to me
Assault
how
them at
much
your
he's
discretion.
involved in all this stuff. But also, because he's so involved in this stuff, even if he has the persona of such a nice guy, as we're going to get into, it feels very inauthentic. And this is really weird because I was talking to someone about this the other day. And do you know those guys in school, or do you know those guys anywhere? Those guys who are just like super, super nice. When you speak to them, they talk to you like they're your best friend or something, right? And they're like this with absolutely everyone. And I don't know about you, for me personally, I always hate people like this. And people might find that weird. How can you hate nice people? And I get it, but I'm a cynical guy. When someone is that nice to me, at the very least, I find it very inauthentic. And I'm just like, you're just doing this for appearances. With The Rock, he is doing this, but also at the same time, it's great for growing a brand if everyone thinks you're the nicest guy ever. And he does have a reputation, generally, for being a nice guy. As we're going to get into, though, recent reports have detailed, if you work with him on a movie, he's not so nice because he doesn't take his colleagues into consideration at all when he shows up to set like 8 hours late, which has led to conflict with multiple other actors. Because if you don't respect the cast and the crew's time, or anyone's time, you might just show up 6 hours late because you're like, well, I'm the star. I bring the money in, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. And it's also clear part of this is influenced by him being an absolute gym freak, which fair play to him, he still looks great at like 50 something. At the same time, it's clear he prioritizes this above everything, which leads him to be late to a lot of things. Now, in terms of politics, like I said, there's been speculation for a long time The Rock is going to be president one day. But I did find this interesting article, and it is like a bit of a different political climate now. This is 7 years ago, 2017, 7 years ago, which makes you feel so old, on GQ, called Dwayne Johnson for President by Katie Weaver. And what's interesting about this article, I'm not going to mention this part, she basically spends a couple of days with The Rock. And the way she talks about him, I think, is so telling. Basically saying, like, the way he speaks to me is so personal, and it's like we've known each other for a long, long time. He's like so interested. He's just so friendly, so nice. And like I said, for me, a lot of red flags. And it's also someone who is very full of himself and so self-confident. He just believes he can achieve like absolutely everything. So I'm going to read you some of the political parts of this just to start it off, because it's the main thing that I found today where he actually, I wouldn't call it detailed policy, but he talks about politics a lot more here than I've seen anywhere else. So last June, when the Washington Post published an op-ed suggesting he could be a viable candidate, Johnson posted a screen grab and gave the idea a boost. On Instagram, he called the Post piece interesting and fun to read, adding that the most important thing right now is a strong, honest leadership from our current and future leaders of this country. Since then, Johnson tells me he's given the question more thought. A year ago, he says it started coming up more and more. There was a real sense of earnestness, which made me go home and think, let me rethink my answer and make sure I am given an answer that is truthful and also respectful. He talks like this a lot. I've heard him say that line like about 4 times today. I didn't want to be flippant. We'll have 3 days off for a weekend, no taxes. So after all that consideration, Johnson doesn't hesitate when I ask him whether he honestly might one day give up his life as the highest paid movie star on earth in order to run for office. I think that's a real possibility, he says solemnly. And then in the article, he talks about like growing up like quite poor and stuff like that. Johnson's industrial strength patriotism is a big reason people wonder about his political aspirations. Last year, both presidential campaigns reached out for him for his endorsement. He says, which I did not give. I felt like, and give me a second because I've never said this publicly, I feel like I'm in a position now where my word carries a lot of weight and influence, which of course is why they want the endorsement. But I also have a tremendous amount of respect for the process and felt like if I did share my political views publicly, a few things would happen. And these are all conversations I had with myself in the gym at 4 in the morning. I felt like it would either A, make people unhappy with the thought of whatever my political views was, and also it might sway an opinion, which I didn't want to do. He said he told both the Trump and Clinton campaigns that he wasn't making an endorsement and he preferred to see Americans make up their own minds. Just to stop it there quick, I do find that train of thought really, really funny of, I don't want to influence anyone. Coming from the king of like influencer marketing, The Rock, makes himself a complete brand and loves, in my opinion, the sound of his voice. He didn't want to influence anyone back in 2017. And of course, when you have someone like Trump, so many celebrities are coming out against him. It's not like a hard thing, but if you want to just be as marketable as possible, you kind of stay out of politics. It makes sense from a business point of view, but it's funny the way he frames it of like, yeah, I just don't want to influence anyone. It's just like, come on. So how do you think Donald Trump is doing, I ask? This is, of course, when he was president. With any job, you come into it and you've got to prove yourself. And Johnson pauses, performing lightning-fast mental calibrations. Personally, I feel that if I were president, poise would be important, leadership would be important, taking responsibility for everybody, even if I didn't agree with someone on something. I wouldn't shut them down, I would actually include them. The first thing we do is we come and sit down, we talk about it. It's hard to categorize right now. I think he's doing other than to tell you how I would operate, what I would like to see. What would you like to see? Right, he says, laughing. I'd like to see better leadership. I'd like to see a greater leadership. When there's a disagreement and you have a large group of people that you're in disagreement with, for example, the media, I feel like it informs me that I could be better. We all have issues and we've got to work our shit out. And I feel like one of the qualities of great leadership is not shutting people out. I missed that part. Even if we disagree, we've got to figure it out, because otherwise I feel as an American, all I hear and all I see in the example you're setting is now I'm shutting you out and you can't come. Disagreement informs us. The responsibility as president, I would take responsibility for everyone, especially when you disagree with me. If there's a large number of people disagreeing, there might be something I'm not seeing, so let me understand it. So anyone who says The Rock can't have a career in politics, just listen to that answer again. Literally absolute perfection of a politician's non-answer to a question. Like, what is he even saying there? He's saying, you got to lead as president, be a good leader, yeah. You got to listen to all sides, yeah. You got to understand why people disagree with you and not shut them out. That is really, really great reasons to consider why you would be a good president and why you'd be a better president than Donald Trump. I mean, if you would be a better president than Donald Trump, but again, pretty much tells you everything about the guy. Like, considering the background he came from as well, which you could either really
start
play
filling out the
into
mission
cynically,
failure report.
politically,
Get a head
or
start on the
as he, you know, he
bookkeeping.
says a lot he
Loadout
cares about it.
updated.
You could use that experience to talk about how that would inform you being a president, right? How your own experience growing up in a certain environment, like a poor environment in America, would inform how you would act as president. But instead he says this absolute garbage instead because, yeah, it's diplomatic. It doesn't piss off anyone. And that's just the rock for you. Link the article in the comments so you guys can go read that. It's an interesting article anyway, if you read it like more critically and not the puff piece it's meant to be, because it's literally titled like Dwayne The Rock for president. But you will get a good insight into his personality. And it is larger than life. And in my opinion, it's quite unhinged as well. And it is a guy that comes across who's just so self-absorbed. But now this was in 2017. I feel like with him and a lot of other people, there's two big shifts. And for him to start with, it was Black Lives Matter. And then I think for a lot of people like him, it was also COVID. COVID in a bad way, but Black Lives Matter in a good way. Because when the protests were happening, he directly called out Donald Trump for his bad leadership. He talked about, you know, Black Lives Matter being important. In that, in the run-up to the 2020 election, it feels like it kind of shifted his politics a bit. Now, you know, I'm not someone who's going to say voting for Joe Biden makes you have good politics, but as someone who's always positioned themselves as a centrist, talks about voting for both parties. I don't know who he would have voted for Republican in the past, but talks about that. And then he actually did a massive endorsement of Joe Biden. And he did like a big video on his own, and he actually talked to both of them directly on video call about why he was endorsing them. So it's like a massive, massive deal for him to do this. And actually, it feels like to me, this is more of a political calculation. Like, I genuinely feel like this was motivated by his own desire to get into politics rather than just feeling very strongly about Joe Biden, because the amount of effort he put into this in terms of, it's like a 7-minute video or something. He really went out of his way to endorse Joe Biden. He didn't post something on Instagram. He didn't post a little video talking about, you know, maybe go vote for Joe Biden like the day before or something. No, this was months before.
Now, that said, I'm going to be pushing this political conversation just a little bit more. Now, you know, look, I've got friends in all parties, but the one thing that we can always agree on is the conversation and the dialogue, and where that conversation lands is always the most critical part. Now, this is something that I've certainly not done in the past, so I'm gonna go big. You guys know me. If I go big. So, guys, I had the opportunity to sit down with Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris to talk about a number of
This op's
important
a bit
issues that we're
raucous
facing
for the
as a
Echelon
country.
playbook, but I'm sure you'll manage.
That was a great and extremely productive conversation that we had, and as a registered independent for years now with
Your mission is to secure the capture zones. Friendlies capturing Zone A.
Vice President Biden and Senator Harris are the best choice to lead our country, and I am endorsing them to become president and vice president.
Zone secured. Friendlies going for Zone
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for your work. Let me start off by saying, guys, I've been a lucky guy over the years in my life and my career to have been part of and participated in some real defining moments. And I have never publicly endorsed a presidential candidate or a vice presidential candidate in my life, over my career. So I figured let's kick this conversation off this way by me officially publicly endorsing you both to become president and vice president of our great country.
So look, a lot of conservative people did vote for Joe Biden, and Joe Biden is a conservative as well, right? And that's what they frame him as, a moderate. So get rid of, you know, the extremist Trump, get in the moderate to manage the country, go back to the good old days of Obama or something, right? So it's not surprising, but it is surprising he came out so heavily for Joe Biden. And even after Joe Biden won, he took to Instagram and he posted a 7-minute video basically celebrating.
Okay, so I have 3 congratulations that are in order right now. Of course, the first congratulations goes out to our new president-elect, Joe Biden. Congratulations on the presidency, and congratulations on being the most voted for presidential candidate in the history of our great country. The second congratulations, of course, goes to our brand new Vice President-elect Kamala Harris.
the very first woman ever to become a vice president, and certainly the first woman of color to become a vice president as a man of color and as a man who loves and respects women. This is pretty special. The third congratulations goes to our country.
Friendly's going for Zone B. Loadout updated.
We have had the biggest voter turnout in the history of the United States. And, that is such a big deal because, it tells me, number one, we were unified on that day, just in terms of everybody coming together, everybody coming out to vote, mailing in your ballots, doing everything you possibly can, exercising the democratic right to vote, which was a beautiful thing.
But again,
capturing Zone C.
I'm a cynical
Zone
person.
secured.
It still feels very performative. It makes me feel like he thinks we're all clinging on his every word, and we really care what The Rock has to say about like the 2020 election. Like maybe some people do, but based on some of the stuff he said about politics, I personally, don't care what he thinks about politics, considering how rich he is as well. So yeah, clearly a guy who is jumping on this bandwagon. And if we're trying to treat this more sincere, like let's try and get to the mindset of Dwayne The Rock Johnson in terms of his politics, and not just me speculating
going for Zone B.
his all political calculation. Joe Biden ran as like a unifier. Trump was causing so much division with all this terrible rhetoric, pitting everyone against each other, demonizing the media. The Rock, as a good old-fashioned centrist, could not abide by that. So it's very easy to endorse Joe Biden, right? And that's why he was excited about a Joe Biden presidency. We've got two different thought processes going on right now. So although he hasn't come out and said a lot of stuff about COVID beyond, him saying he's been vaccinated a lot, I think for a lot of fitness people, COVID was such a big deal because it shut down the gyms. Even though they don't mind injecting a load of illegal stuff into themselves, apparently they were all terrified of the vaccine and what it would do to them. So a lot of them were anti-vaccine on those grounds. And also the ideology of I am built different, nothing will ever harm me, is very common with bodybuilder types. But in 2022, he was supporting Joe Rogan after he's getting loads of criticism for platforming so much like medical misinformation. And Rogan posted a video on his own Instagram rebutting charges that he spreads misinformation for his show, and The Rock commented underneath, "Great stuff here, brother, perfectly articulated. Look forward to coming on one day and breaking out the tequila with you," which he's actually done recently. You had other stuff like last year, he was supporting the rich men north of Richmond, like that terrible song about welfare queens, and all Republicans just using it as some sort of like culture war thing, even though the guy himself didn't really like a lot of the conservatives anyway. But The Rock wrote on his Instagram as well, saying, "Great to connect with you, brother. Way to handle the fame and influence with class and kindness. Keep kicking ass and see you down the road." So for some reason or another, The Rock has gone out of his way to like support more conservative things in those two instances. You can maybe do it from the thing of like, oh, he's just a centrist, he just says what he wants. For me, it's more like, oh, it's popular, so he's doing it. That's what I think. Like, what is the most popular thing to do these days? Oh, conservative media is popular, conservative figures are popular, Joe Rogan is popular. I'm going to come out in support of them because that's good for the Rock brand. And maybe he's hurting too because this also correlates with a lot of his films not doing that well recently as well, like things like Black Adam and stuff, which he's been hyping up for years and years. So maybe he's hurt and he feels like as a brand he needs to make a comeback. But again, I can't really speculate what is driving this right-wing shift. But there is one more thing I want to talk about before we get more into like explicitly like going on Fox News and talking about wokeness and stuff. Apparently, he's not a great guy to work with. And that comes mainly in terms of his films. Recently, only like a month and a bit ago, this big report came out from The Wrap, which talked about how like he actually isn't a great guy to work with because he just never showed up to work on time. How Dwayne Johnson's tardiness led to a $250 million runaway production. And this is talking about the film Red 1, which is different from that other film with the red in the title. So there was production issues ranging from Johnson's chronic lateness and lack of professionalism on set to producers' inexperience, which caused this movie to balloon in budget. The Rock, who advocates for himself as the hardest worker in the room, has developed a reputation in the industry for his lateness and lack of professionalism. Said one Red 1 insider, the only thing Dwayne was consistent at was being chronically late, The examples of Johnson's tardiness are numerous and well documented, from showing up late to fan events to leaving entire sets idle while he was off doing 3-hour workouts. On the set of Red 1, his pattern of lateness proved more damaging. He was late an average of 7 to 8 hours per day and missed several entire days of production, ballooning costs by at least $50 million, according to Free Insiders. It was a disaster. On days when Johnson didn't show up, the production crew was forced to shoot around him. Dwayne truly doesn't give a fuck, one insider bluntly said. So his lateness on everything has been a problem for years. They rent a location they can shoot as much as they can of other actors while they wait for him to decide if he's coming on set. Someone said who produced HBO's Ballers. A former production assistant on this show corroborated this, saying he was regularly 3 to 4 hours late to set, keeping 100+ crew members waiting for no reason. On the set of 2018's Rampage, he was late an average of 4 to 5 hours daily, with one co-star keeping records. Dwayne's call times are never published on the call sheet. It's because one of the actors on Rampage was keeping a log of how late he was to set every day. The reasons behind his lateness seem to stem from his refusal to work a full shooting day, despite factoring in his 3-hour daily workout routine. It's his absolute refusal to work more than a 4 or 5 hour day. It's a control thing. His behavior has led to confrontations with co-stars, most famously Vin Diesel. During production of Red Notice, Ryan Reynolds was so infuriated after waiting 5 hours for Johnson, they had a huge fight, with Johnson storming off set. Insiders also accused Johnson of breaking strict COVID quarantine rules on the set of Red Notice, whose cast and crew was sequestered by flying home in a private jet. He was frequently flying home and breaking the extremely strict rules of his bubble, according to an insider. Johnson himself posts about working a 14-hour day only to delete it. After crew members called out his hypocrisy, one writing, he got to host family and friends for a barbecue and wound up getting COVID anyway. Most selfish thing I've seen an actor do. So yeah, like I was saying, his politics are probably just, you know, whatever is best for The Rock. Like, I'll break COVID protocols if I want. I won't show up to set. I'll have no regard for my workers, just waiting around for me to show up so they can do their job, just absolutely like wasting their time doing nothing. Maybe some people will be paid overtime. Hopefully a lot of these workforces that he fucked around were unionized. But yeah, it seems like a guy who doesn't really have the best interests of most people at heart and just does kind of what he wants. Would he really make a good president? I mean, we did have like a really lazy president with Donald Trump, but sometimes you could be doing too much stuff as well, like 3-hour workouts every day, while shirking the rest of your responsibilities. But I just thought that was interesting to just like kind of frame the rest of it. And the COVID thing is interesting because so many people were radicalized by having their freedoms stripped back a tiny bit for the good of the health of society. But you couldn't just like act like completely normal when there was like a super deadly pandemic just ravaging America, right? Loads of people were like, oh, you're shutting down my gyms, you're taking my liberty. And I feel like The Rock might have been influenced by this. Now, recently on Joe Rogan's podcast, he came out and said he's not friends with anyone who likes Joe Biden, despite giving a massive endorsement. And also, he then went on Fox News to say he regretted that as well. And in this segment, he also complains about wokeness and cancel culture.
To be real and to be direct and to be open and to be transparent. And as you and I have talked about, if you ask me a direct question, I'm always going to give you a direct answer, whatever it is. And that's important to me. And authenticity, we hear that word a lot. But that's important to me. And I feel like, and I mean, we could go down the well here, but there's, in today's easy cancel culture world, and cancel culture, woke culture, this culture, that culture, division, etc., that really bugs me. And in the spirit of that, you either succumb and be what you think other people want you to be, or you go, well, no, that's not who I am. I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to be real. If you ask me something, a real answer is important, and the truthful answer is important, and that may get people upset and may piss people
Domination.
off. And that's okay.
I'll tag 3 objectives on your off patch. Assault them at your discretion.
Years ago with Biden was one I thought was the best decision for me at that time.
Great.
And I thought back then, when we talked about, hey, I'm in this position where I have some influence, and it's my
Friendly's
job
capturing
then.
Zone
I
A.
felt like that then. It's my job
Friendly's
now
going
to
for Zone
exercise
B.
my influence and share with this is who
Capture
I'm
zone
going to endorse.
secured.
Am I going to do that again this year? That answer's no.
So in terms of that interview there, like I said, if we're trying to keep in like the train of thought of The Rock being like some sort of centrist, he's talking about woke culture and cancel culture. Maybe you could say, oh, well, he's not actually talking about, like, he hates that. It's just, like, the culture of, like, division over, like, woke
Team
this,
capturing
cancel
Zone
culture
C.
that.
Zone secured.
Which I would understand a bit more.
Capture Zone A is at
Not
risk.
that I agree with it anyway. If you weren't running to Fox News to complain about it. Because if
Capture
you're running to
zone
Fox
contested.
News to say that you regret endorsing Joe Biden, talking about, like, wokeness and cancel culture, it's pretty clear what you're saying, right? You're not saying, I just hate division in the country, let's just stop, we're all Americans, let's stop being at each other's throat. It's like, oh yeah, I don't like Joe Biden, I regret doing that. Woke culture and cancel culture, let me complain about that. And your audience all hate that, which I know because you're Fox News. So yeah, to me it feels like more calculated, like shifting to the right, and him always describing himself consistently as a centrist maybe helps this go down a bit easier with him, or maybe other people. But yeah, it's pretty clear something happened to the gym bros during COVID, where they've all started flocking now to the conservatives, even if they previously expressed some sympathy for more liberal positions, like Joe Rogan with like Bernie Sanders or something like that, or just some liberal sensibilities, even sometimes more left-wing sensibilities, and then The Rock here having said all that stuff before. But remember, this is the same guy who said all that garbage in 2017 about him being a good president, while basically saying nothing. So The Rock, in my opinion, does what's best for his brand and for his income. And I think for a lot of people at the moment, they're seeing the right wing as a better kind of like safe space where you're not going to be like cancelled for anything. And also, can we take a small little moment to appreciate how so many people who talk about cancel culture like this have never been cancelled? Like, even if we understand cancelling to be like a mass backlash or something, even that report that came out recently about him being like terrible to work with, he wasn't like cancelled for that, was he? Like, there wasn't like such a massive backlash. Everyone was saying, oh, The Rock is just the worst thing ever. Especially because if he disputed it with other people, it like muddies the waters a bit more. Like, I'm always going to believe like the workforce, aren't I, and not The Rock. He shows himself to be so self-absorbed, but at the same time, he wasn't cancelled. But it is a good way to insulate yourself in case more stuff comes out. Oh, the woke mob are trying to cancel me. You know, I'm the hardest working man, and they just, you know, they don't like that anymore or something. I don't know, some garbage like that. But yeah, does he genuinely like care about wokeness and cancel culture? I don't know. I don't think so, because all the stuff he said about Black Lives Matter in the past, they would all say that is woke garbage. So I just think he's just saying it personally, but who knows? Maybe he is more concerned. And obviously this all culminates, of course. He's now collaborating with Patrick Bet David on some like business thing.
So last year we had Tom Brady at the Vault Conference. This year we have this guy. Check this out.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson here, man. I am pumped. I got some big news to share with you guys. I cannot wait to join all of you guys down there at the Vault Conference in Palm Beach, September 4th through the 7th. I'm going to be sitting down with your host and my good buddy, Patrick Bet David. We're going to chop it all up from leadership, entrepreneurial spirit, business strategy. We're going to chop up our journeys. We're going to chop up so much more, including all the various industries that we have been lucky and fortunate enough to build enterprises. So I cannot wait. September 4th to the 7th. It's going to be a historic conference. I cannot wait. I will see you down there, Palm Beach. Back to work for me because the rent is always due.
I told you 2024 was going to be a special Vault Conference. What the most electrifying man on earth. Are you kidding me? For 3.5 days? 10,000 people in the room, entrepreneurs, executives, private equity, VCs, salespeople from 60+ countries, 180 different industries, chopping it up, strategizing.
And it just seems like a networking event for like rich people or, I don't know, finance people, whatever. But yeah, it's interesting now. Patrick Bet-David is like very conservative. You can see that on his podcast from the stuff he says. Even the podcast like positively interviewing people like Andrew Tate, for example. Of course, it does get like more liberal left-wing guests on, but it's not like they ever agree with anything they're saying. And for me personally, The Rock just feels like someone who knows which way the wind's going. If Donald Trump becomes president again, is he going to say anything bad about him? I really doubt it. He's hardly ever said anything bad about Donald Trump. Donald Trump loves wrestling. Conservatives generally, I feel like wrestling more than more left-leaning people. The Rock has recently gone back to wrestling, and they've given him like the complete rights to his own image, but that's lots more money. So, to be honest, I don't think The Rock has any political principles. I wouldn't call him a grifter at this moment because he doesn't need to take a political position to make money. He's super successful, super famous, loads of people like him. But I do think there is a right-wing pivot there that is primarily driven by business and perhaps ego as well, because he knows people on the right are going to be more supportive of that ego than people on the left like me, especially if more reports come out that he just absolutely takes the piss, like quite literally, if you know what I'm talking about, when he is working on movies. So that is it for like the politics of The Rock. I had fun researching this. I find these sorts of people like just really fascinating. It feels like only like an American could be The Rock, like no one else in the world. It just feels like alien to like, I don't know.
Hello, and welcome back to A Bit Fruity. I'm Matt Bernstein, and I'm so happy that you're here. Today, we are going to be talking about someone and something that I have not been able to look away from in like 3 years. And I feel like if I don't get it out in podcast form, then it's just going to keep rotting through the insides of my brain, and we can't have that. To help us explain the phenomenon of Ollie London, we are joined today by the one and only Taylor Lorenz. Taylor is a tech reporter for the Washington Post. She is the host of a new podcast called Power User. She is exceptionally smart. She's a historian of the internet, and I couldn't think of a better person to spend today with. Taylor, welcome to A Bit Fruity.
Thanks for having me.
Just to kick this off, what is a grift? How would you define a grift, a grifter? Because I feel like this is a word that not everyone is super familiar with.
I totally agree. And I actually use it all the time.
Yeah.
I think because there's so much grifting happening on the internet. I would say a grifter is somebody that essentially exploits something, usually the attention economy online, to push a message or to sell something or to make themselves famous. It's sort of like a disingenuous